Do you run an e-commerce business? Well, get ready for the CHYE E-commerce Business Summit coming up February 6, 2018. It'll be an unforgettable evening filled with education, resources, and inspiration to rocket charge your sales. Plus, a lavish buffet dinner. To find out more, log on to chye.info.
Welcome to the CHYE in partnership with COL Live K-Factor podcast with your host, Rabbi Yehoshua Wordy, director of CHYE. Each week, we bring you interviews with amazing Jewish entrepreneurs sharing their challenges and successes. Their stories will inspire you to make the Keli to take your business aspirations to the next level. Okay, everybody. This week, I'm honored to be sitting with a special person to CHYE. I'm sitting with Yehuda Berg, CHYE's in-house business counselor. We've had the zechus of having Yehuda work for us now for 3 years, and he's been counseling hundreds of young startups, people in new and growing businesses, and helping them with their needs. And we're excited to have Yehuda here. Yehuda, welcome to the K-Factor podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's an honor. And Yehuda has been, in his capacity here at CHYE, he's really been on a mission to help people with their businesses to make sure that they're a success to begin with. You know, there's certain things you got to know, you got to do right at the beginning to ensure your success. And part of it is assessing, you know, your idea to begin with, if it's a valuable idea and worth starting to, you know, in the first place. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to walk through today a lot of the different things that Yehuda finds, you know, new businesses need, and we'll try to get some examples, and we'll learn from Yehuda's wisdom. And so Yehuda, you know, let's walk us through this over here. First of all, and I should have said this to begin with, Yehuda is doing this for close to 20 years. He's been working, first he worked at the BAC, which is the Business Outreach Center, and he continues to work also at Kojo of Flatbush, and he did this in his capacity at BAC at Kojo, and now also for CHYE. So Yehuda, a new business person walks in the room over here to CHYE and sits down with you and says, Yehuda, I've got this new idea. And before I, you know, throw all my money at this idea, I want to assess it first. You sit down with them. Tell us a little bit about the questions you asked them, and, you know, maybe give us an example or two of what people could do to assess their ideas.
Okay. First of all, just before I start, I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to you, everybody, for giving me the opportunity to be able to work with such a wonderful organization. And it's a special chance to me to even play a small part in the success of CHYE. So I'll just give you a quick, you know, before I start again, just a little bit of, you know, background. So about 18 or 19 years ago, I was working at Kojo Flatbush under a different capacity. I was doing mortgage help and different financial stuff. And one day the director called me into the office, and he said that, you know, there's opportunity came up that they just got a grant, a city grant, to be a satellite office and an affiliate of the Business Outreach Center Network. Now, the Business Outreach Center Network is a very similar organization to what we do here at CHYE. Basically, the organization and their mission statement is to help people realize their dream of starting a business. People come in with the ideas, and they give them the tools and the information that they need to be able to actually turn the dream into a reality. So being that I had a background in economics and business management, so he asked me to be the lead man in appointment to head up this department. And, you know, Baruch Hashem, over the last 18 years, I could say that we helped hundreds of businesses start and access and financing millions of dollars. So, you know, it's and again, it's just, you know, not you know, just to say that even though I had played a small part of it, really the main point that I want to bring out is that really my goal really is just to give the person the necessary information and the tools needed to be able to hear what it entails to start, and we never see them again. But that person who actually goes and they implement the ideas and do the homework and do all the necessary work. So call a kavod to them, and they're really the ones that get 99% of the credit. Yeah, so just in terms of, just like I said, you know, when a person comes in, you know, with an idea to start a business, so not everybody has what it takes to be an entrepreneur, right? Some people like the comfort of working a 9-to-5 job and going home at 5 o'clock, and that's the end of it. To be an entrepreneur is basically something that takes a lot of work. So we actually have, when we sit down with a potential client, we have a checklist. This checklist actually can be accessed on the CHYE website, chye.info. we have a list of like 20 questions of basically, are you ready to be an entrepreneur? And basically you have to really, and I say you have to answer at least 15 out of the 20 questions. You have to give yes answers to the questions to be able to really, again, and the point is to be honest with yourself.
What are some of the examples of the questions?
So here, I mean, you can really look at the website, but I have a list of a couple of them. Again, these are things that are really self-explanatory, but the main point is to be honest with yourself, because the only one you're going to be fooling is yourself if you don't feel that you're up to it. The first thing is obviously, are you willing to put in long hours? When you work for somebody else, you punch a clock, 9 to 5, 5 o'clock, you go home and you put the work out of your mind till the next day. When you're an entrepreneur, you can't do that. The business is on your head, 24 hours. All the onus falls on you. So you have to be really, really willing and able to put in the long hours. And you have to really ask yourself, can you do it? Is that something that you're up to? Another thing that comes up a lot, especially in our communities, is do you have the family support for this? There's a certain comfort in knowing that you have a salary, you work for someone, and then you come home with a set amount of income. And, there's a comfort level in that. To actually go out and, new businesses, as everyone knows, could take a couple of months, if ever, to make money, actually. So to be able to actually go out, and the family has to be willing to sacrifice, and maybe for the first few months, there won't be any income, but without any risk, there's no reward. So, but you do need to have the family support. So if there's going to be friction in the family and the family won't be able to have that sacrifice, it's something that really should be considered.
That's nice. So they sit with you and they decide that, yes, I am that entrepreneur. I'm ready to take this on.
Right.
And now they've assessed themselves, so now they have to assess their idea. So give us some examples of
Well, I mean, I just wanted I feel it's very important. So I just want to go through. I'm just going to list a couple more that I think is very important, and let me just go through that, and then we'll move on to the next step if that's okay. One of that thing, can you afford the risk? People, if you're gonna have to be mortgaged, I'll go through them quickly. I don't want to take up all the time with it, but if you're gonna be mortgaging your life savings for it, and that there's no backup plan, and something goes wrong, you lose the money. Obviously, it's also a consideration. Are you self-motivated? If you're the type of person that knows yourself the best, if you don't have a boss on top of you, or you're gonna roll out of bed at 11 o'clock and not get work, not get nobody on top of you, that's something else that's a consideration. You have the ability to make hard decisions. Being a softie in life is usually a good thing, but not when it comes to business. If you have an employee who is detrimental to the company, will you have the nerve to be able to, to fire him and hire the right people? You have to be the right type of person. And obviously, then the last thing that I feel is very important is you have the right temperament to be an entrepreneur. But basically, it involves networking, at times cold calling, personality. And that's something that might not be right for you. So these are just some of the things on the checklist. Once you reach that stage of realizing that, yes, I can do most of these things, then you're willing to take on the next step. That's really the self-assessment of the person ready to be an entrepreneur. In regards to your next question, you said in terms of, is the business viable? Is there something before market research, which we'll get into, I'm sure, but you also need to know that does this business idea that you have, is there viability in this particular business? So how do you know? Again, the point is, obviously there's going to be risks in every business idea that you have, and there's no guarantees in life. But just some of the things that a person needs, again, with an idea, it should be something that you believe in the product or service. Whatever the service or product that you're providing, you have a passion for it. You have, in other words, if you're a food connoisseur and you like food and you have a passion for it, then you should do something in the food business. If you like design, then you could do something like that. But a person shouldn't think, oh, I see there's a demand, for a restaurant, and the person has no experience in the restaurant business. You're setting yourself up for failure. So I don't think there's viability in that. That's one of the things I think a person should look at in terms of, is this business viable? Knowing your competition. One person, you have a great idea, but you really should research. Again, I'm sure unless it's a brand new innovative idea, in most cases there are going to be people that will be selling the same product, providing the same service that you're doing. So you need to look at the competition and see, find out exactly, do your research, see exactly what they're doing, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and your goal is to make their weaknesses your strength. So that again is putting your best foot forward. And obviously, like I said before, sustainability, if you're going to have to make sure they have enough cash reserves to be able to actually run an effective business. If something goes wrong the first 3 months and the business is not making money, is one wrong step going to make the business close? If that's the situation, then this is not something that you should be considering.
Okay, so
Yeah.
can you, digging into your years of experience, can you crystallize us with like an example of some sort? Give us
Example of
an actual client without saying names that came in, and how how they took these ideas and applied them to their business idea.
Yeah. Well, again, like I say, a person that comes in, I'll give a particular client. We had a client just recently that started her own business and making gourmet meals for clients. Her basically what she did was she had the meals prepared, and she would send them over the night before to the client. And the mission statement of the business was to be able to provide people that worked for the people working in the city, not for them not to have to go buy lunch themselves. They can go and have a ready-made lunch and ready to go. So again, this is the type of business that it's something that there's so many, there's so many aspects that can go here in terms of doing the right proper market research and finding out that this is something that people want. Right? How do you come to that realization that this is something that there's a market for, that there's a demand for? So again, if a person like that comes in, the first thing we always tell the clients to do is to write a business plan. The business plan basically encompasses all the stuff here that we're talking about. So what's the goal of a business plan? A business plan, there's two goals of a business plan. One is to figure out the operational feasibility of the business and the financial feasibility of the business. Basically, what that means is that there's a narrative on the operation side, which means that you have to see if you can effectively run the business with all the technical aspects of running it, hiring the right people, having the right people doing all the right work. Is there a demand for the product? Do people want it? Do people need it? Is there competition? And can you be unique in a way that you can beat the competition? So this particular client implemented these ideas and worked it out, and saw that she can meet all these needs. And she wrote a business plan, professional business plan, and saw that.
So what was the discovery that she discovered through the process? Like, in other words, what light bulb went off, so to say, in the process that wasn't there before?
That she can actually do it. Again, that there's so many.
But she was doing it already. You said that she was doing it. In other words, what through crafting this business plan, like what went off in her head? Like what new thing that came to her?
Well, again, before you actually start, you have to realize this. She had the realization she can do this. Is there a demand for the product? Do people want it? Do people need it? So that's what market research is. Market research is actually going forward. And again, let's just back up a little bit. I'll talk about what market research is. When someone has a business idea and wants to start a business, so there's three aspects that a person should consider, while they're doing market research. One is who the customer is, what the target market is, who you're selling to, where they're buying from now, and how you're going to make them buy from you. Those are the three real main aspects of market research. There are many ways of finding out that information. The best way and the most effective way is Prime themselves goes out and finds out themselves. For this particular woman that we're referring to, she actually did the research, and she actually made the phone calls and called people up and said, "Listen, I know you work in Manhattan. You go out for lunch every day. If I would deliver lunch for you, and you don't have to go out, would you pay the few extra dollars that it would cost?" And she obviously got enough yeses that she felt that it was worthwhile for her to move forward with.
So she made those phone calls.
She made those phone calls. She said, that's there are other ways to do market research. There's secondary. You can look at different there are different websites, the U.S. Census Bureau, and the USA.gov, where you can actually find out buying trends and industry trends for different demographics. But really, the best way to do the market research is actually going out and making those phone calls and finding out do people really want and have a need for your product. So.
Can you dig in this from in your experience in your memory, any sample examples of people that came in with ideas, and when you told them to do market research, they backed off as a result of doing it?
Many times. Many times we have clients that come in and that we tell them the
Any example comes to your mind? We're going to take a quick break to talk about our major upcoming e-commerce event on February 6, 2018. This event is going to be the biggest event ever in CHYE history. It's going to be a 6-hour event with 3 distinct parts. 4 to 6 is going to be seminars. We have 4 tracks, a e-tail track, Amazon Beginners track, an Amazon Advanced track, and a business development track. Afterwards, from 6 to 8, we're going to have a trade show with full buffet dinner. We're going to have over 45 different vendors servicing the e-commerce industry. They're going to be there. It's a tremendous networking opportunity. Together, afterwards, at 8 o'clock, we're going to have a CEO panel. We have 6 major players in the industry. They're going to be sharing their wisdom. After the CEO panel, we're going to have our classic breakaway roundtables covering the topics that are the hot topics in the industry. It's going to be a tremendous event, tremendous value, and we look forward to seeing you there. To find out more, log on to chye.info.
People that didn't, there's too many. There's too many to count.
Actualize it for people, though.
I mean, if a person, comes in and they see, even I think just a business plan themselves, when we tell them what, even though a business plan, I don't think it's too complicated. It's 20 pages, but like I said before, there's many ads. It's figuring out the operational and the financial feasibility. Let's say just in terms of, like you said, to have people backed off. Part of the second part of the business plan is like I said, the financial feasibility. Basically, you have to figure out, you have the cash to basically for the startup costs and to run the business on a monthly basis. And people, when they first start, they don't realize what everything costs. They think, they'll just start and they'll play it by ear and they'll do it on the fly. But when they actually put pen to paper, they realize that, even just the fact that if you rent, people that have, retail stores and have to rent a space and you have to put down 3 months rent to start, they don't have that type of cash to begin with. And it's very hard to access money in terms of lending for new businesses. So
one of your biggest things when you sit with people is that you, in other words, aside from the assessments, is you actually help them complete a whole business plan. What are the major components of a business plan? So
as I said before, there's 2 main components. Can you run the business on the operations side? Operationally, can you effectively run the business? In other words,
but let's give an example. Isn't it broken up into like 7 parts? What isn't that? Right, the 7 parts, but I'll encompass it in a shorter version. There's the operations in terms of can you physically run the business on the technical side. Let's say, for example, a food business, as we just said, like this woman is in the food business. There's so many things that you need to start again. You need a website. You need manufacturers, suppliers, vendors. You need a hechsher, permits. So these are all things that you can't do this on the fly. If you really want to run a successful business, you have to have all this information, and all this should be in the business plan before you actually start the business. First of all, just for your own personal organizational idea of knowing what you have, and in terms of just if you want to a roadmap, and if you want to get money from an investor or a lender, if they don't see that you have an idea in place, that all your T's are crossed and your I's dotted, then there's no way you're going to get money. And that's one thing. And a lot of people, when they write the plan and they see all the things that it entails, again, this is something that we could help in, obviously, in terms of we have over the years of working in this field, I have a lot of contacts, and the person does need it to find out. Like I said, it could be very daunting finding out how they can get all the licensing and permits and Department of Health. And Baruch Hashem, we have the resources, not just in terms of professionals that can actually help in terms of reviewing a business lease, helping a person sign a partnership agreement, helping a person navigate all the licensing and permits they need. So that's something that we obviously can help in also. But this is something that you also help technically with incorporation, right? That's something also that you help with.
Yeah. So that's also very important. Obviously as a business counselor, it's my duty to inform all clients that really legally they should set up a business properly in a proper legal structure. And even forget about the legal ramifications of whether of a person of what the yashus and the right thing to do is, but just in terms of being a reputable business. If someone wants to invest in a business or do a business loan or have people work for them in terms of vendors and manufacturers, they rather work with reputable companies, and they don't want to write out checks, to Joe Schwartz, on East 47th Street. They want to actually write out a check to a real business. So just for yourself, in terms of being a reputable company, a reputable business, it's important to figure out a legal structure. Now, obviously, the best thing, I'm not an accountant, so I could just advise, really a person should speak to their business accountant to really come to a determination of what type of structure they could form. But just to be, in general, there are three types of three main types of legal structures. I'll just basically touch on all of them. The simplest and easiest one is being a sole proprietor. That's what a lot of new businesses, they originally start off as that, because it's the simplest to form, costs the least amount of money, and it basically entails going down to 360 Adams Street, getting a certain form, paying $100, getting a tax ID number. Within a couple of weeks, you're a legal business. The downside is that if you're a sole proprietor, all the liability falls on you. You're not protected from liability. So if Chas v'Shalom something goes wrong and you incur losses, creditors can technically come after you. Then there's corporations, which people can file a corporation. Which there's two main advantages of it being a corporation. There are certain types. We won't go into that now, but one of the main advantages is, of course, that a corporation is more reputable businesses and is more likely for an investor or a lender to want to invest in a business that actually has traction and is a real company. And also in terms of liability, that's really the main advantage of a corporation, is that the business is its own entity, and if there's any liability, something happens and then the person can't afford to keep the business will incur all the losses. And then there's a third, so that's a big advantage. The disadvantage, of course, is there's a lot of, with a corporation, there's a lot of paperwork involved, a lot of rules and regulations to be able to keep a corporation going. Plus the initial startup costs, more costly to start. So those are some of the disadvantages. So what a lot of people, do is something called a limited liability corporation, which is somehow in between. It has the advantages of a corporation is that the liability falls on the business, but it doesn't have all the paperwork of a real corporation. So these, again, obviously speak to an accountant to find out what is the best fit for your particular business, but those are just some of the...
If people have more questions about this, they definitely could contact us to set up a meeting with you. So someone comes, they sit down, they write this business plan, they do the feasibility test, they do the operations test, and they feel they're gung-ho. But then there's another part to the business plan, that's the marketing plan, right? Tell us a little bit about the marketing plan.
Okay, so marketing plan. So I focus mostly on really marketing strategy and market research. For marketing plan 9, I'm sure you know about CHYE. We have a mentoring program, and something, getting to the nitty-gritty of an actual marketing plan for a specific industry. I can give just general information, but in terms of a marketing plan, I think it's more, that's something that I usually refer to one of the marketing experts. But in terms of market research, like I said before, it's important to focus on three main aspects of doing that. Before you start a specific business, do the research, and very important, I can't stress enough, find out your target market. You don't want to market yourself to 90, most of the times the person does advertisements, they're marketing to people that are not interested in the product. 90% of people that read that are going to see the ad or whatever your market is are not interested in the product or service. So make sure you figure out what the target market is, who you're selling to, where they're buying now, and who's basically do studies, do research, figure out where the customers are buying the product from now, and how are you, and the third and the most important part is how you're going to take them away from your competitors to make them come to you. So that's what market research is. And again, you have to have some sort of uniqueness to your business that are going to make people leave the comfort of where they're buying now and come to you. It could be because you have better customer service, your price is better, your quality is better. And the only way to do that is do real market research is, as I said before, is, my opinion is that primary research is the best, actually going out, meeting people, networking, going to places where your target market, trade shows, whatever your product or service is, going out and asking them and telling them, if I had a certain product and I was able to provide a better customer service, would you pay more money for this particular product? And would you be interested in, instead of going to a store, having it delivered, would that be something that you would pay a little more money for? And that's really the best way to do it. And the more answers the more yeses that you get, that's that's a step in the right direction, so you have something. This is again, I would also advise, again, if this is something just an idea, and I wouldn't rely on that solely, just your own primary research and saying, oh, I spoke to enough people and I feel that this business will be successful. I think it's important that you actually should speak to a marketing professional and just get their professional opinion, before you move forward, just to see what they say. And, as I said before, CHYE has a tremendous mentor program where we have many, very, very people who are experts in marketing, and they can really give their expertise and help you make that determination of whether this is something worthwhile for you to go into.
Okay, so they finished their marketing plan, and then I guess the last piece of the puzzle is the financial projections, which you mentioned earlier. Now, someone had mentioned to me probably one of the key things that you in a business plan and the purpose of these financial projections is to come up with something called the break-even analysis. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Oh, yeah. So, basically, as just to give a basic overview on the financial statements, I think break-even analysis, profit and loss statement, cash flow outlays, cash flow statements. Really, the goal is the same: is to figuring out the money that's being spent and the money that you're bringing in. So I feel it's very important. The main thing I always talk about in terms of financial management is I think every month the business should do a cost analysis, which basic cost analysis means what are your expenses per month? What is everything costing you? Because you never know, things change every month. Sometimes you can come to the realization that you don't need to, there are competitors out there that will charge you less money for the same product that you don't have to spend that much money for. Maybe situations change and you don't need that particular item anymore. So every month the person should review, their cost analysis. And as you mentioned before, the break-even analysis is something similar, that I think people should do is basically a cash flow analysis. Basically every month track, again, people just run businesses, and after a year they don't look at their statements and they realize that they think they're doing well and they see that they're losing money. It's basically you have to do an analysis that shows all the money that's coming into the business and all the money that's going out. And for this way, there's a lot of big reasons why a person would do that. The main reason is there could be certain months, let's say, if you're a seasonal business and there are certain months where your expenses far outweigh your revenue. So you have to be able to shift over money and have reserves for the months that are the better months, and shift them over, so you should have some reserve for the months where business is going to be slower. So that's the point of the break-even analysis, to make sure that you always have enough cash flow and working capital. And the third thing, again, in terms of financial management, is I think is also very important, is collections and credit. Basically, I've seen this, something that I see a lot. People that, extending credit could be a great boon for businesses. People, if they know they can buy in credit, business will obviously pick up. You'll have good customers if they know they don't have to pay, upfront. But the problem is you have to make sure that there's a system in place that they'll pay back and they'll pay what they owe. So I think it's very important that every month to go over the collection, see what money is outstanding, and to have really an aggressive plan in place to be able to get that money. Because the longer it goes without the money being repaid, the harder it is to be able to collect. So I really feel it's important to have a system in place and make sure that how much money, because people after a year say, oh my gosh, we're hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt from, and the customers that we have that haven't paid us in a while. So if you do a month and have a system in place, I think it'll go far in extending your business.
So they've completed their business plan with all of their components, and the last big thing that you help people with is those finances to get that business going. Right. So let's talk a little bit. We'll break this into two parts. Talk a little bit about where startups get funds from, and then also once a business is open, that's a different. There's a different way of getting funds. Talk a little bit about bank funds, bank lending, and so on.
Yeah. So initially, I'll just talk about the different. I think the loan that we work with the most and the most popular, again, it's the loan from the Hebrew Free Loan Society. We have a very close working relationship with Shlomo Hat from Hebrew Free Loan. They offer up to $50,000. So after you do your business plan and you come to the realization that you need for your business $50,000, basically that's really the best route to go. There's a certain criteria. They want to obviously see some traction in the business. They want to see that you have 2 co-signers. I think you have to live in the 5 boroughs. There's certain other criteria. But in terms of startups that have a little bit of traction and have 2 co-signers, there's nothing better than an interest-free loan. So if all you need is $50,000, that's really the best route to go. In terms of someone needs more than 50,000, so again, so if you're an existing business that you have excellent credit and you have financials to show, let's say even 2 years financials, really the best loans out there are bank loans and SBA loans, because those loans offer the best rates. Usually it's prime plus 1, which now is about 5%. So for 6%, you can get loans of up to $1 million either through bank or SBA loans. Again, those are the hardest loans to get because they really want to see the business is profitable. You have to have excellent credit. They usually want to see collateral. So those are really the hardest businesses to fund. So, but if someone is eligible and someone has a business that's doing well and just wants to do improvements and needs, the initial, some more money to be able to expand and improve the business, so that would be the best route to go. In terms of a person that does not have great credit and they need more than $50,000 and their credit situation is not amazing, there are different micro-lending programs out there. There's a program called Axion. There's a program called Bethex Credit Union. There's a few other loans out there, micro-enterprise lending, that they will lend to startups, even with fair credit. I wouldn't say bad credit, but they'll lend to fair credit. The big disadvantage of these loans is their interest rates are usually much higher. It could be anywhere from 10 to 20%. So, but again, if someone is in that situation and feels that they would benefit from a loan, this is the route that they can take. And I have, connections, obviously, with all these micro lending, and they could do that. There are other, then there's investors, there are angel investors and venture capitalists, crowdfunding. Angel investors are basically if someone has traction in the business and has someone that they know that they feel would want to, are willing to invest in the company for a percentage of the business. So again, obviously they would want to see traction in the business and it's for them to actually, and they should feel that you're passionate, they feel that the business has a chance of success. So again, so with all these, there's a bunch of different funding options and we have connections with a lot of them. And, so again, so something that they can get in touch with me. And if a person there's an application process with all these loans and, I can help get the ball rolling. If whatever loan you feel you're eligible for and you can fill out an application, so we can get the ball rolling and start the process for you.
Very nice. So now that we walked through that whole entire process, just turning to you and, looking at these 20 years of helping businesses, and watching different things happen. Some businesses not opening, some businesses opening and then closing, and other businesses opening and succeeding. What would you say is that key ingredient that allowed for the businesses that did open and did thrive versus the ones that didn't? Your personal experience.
The drive and perseverance. Like I said, it's hard work. It's not something that everyone could do. As I said before, with my initial assessment of does the person have what it takes to open a business? And some people, again, like I said, people will walk in and we'll just give them the homework of what to do, and just looking at the homework and seeing what it entails, doing the market research, putting in the long hours, finding the cash reserves, all the work it entails, finding and to open a business, like I said before, all the different technical aspects of starting, of finding the manufacturers, the suppliers, the vendors, getting, if you have a food business, getting a hechsher, the right hechsher, even that, you can get the wrong hechsher could also sink a business, most of the people don't, again, but the good hechsher costs more money. People come to the realization that it costs a lot more money than they thought. So again, so the real way to, so there's 2 aspects. One is, like I said, for perseverance, is actually having the drive to succeed and having a real proper plan in place. And that's really accomplished with a business plan to say that this is what I need to do to be able to start and actually implement. We can actually help you, we can walk through all the steps of what you need to implement, and you actually have to do the homework. And if there's 15 things you need to do, before you start the business, don't say, oh, I'll just start and we'll play it by ear. No, you have to do all the 15 steps and then start. And then once you dotted all the I's and cross all the T's, then actually go ahead and start.
What are the popular businesses over the years that you work with business, like trends wise? What do you see the Jewish people? What type of businesses are we opening?
I noticed a lot of the women like going into design, online businesses. So, we have a lot of, especially a lot of designers come in. A lot of
Talking about fashion.
Fashion, people want to do it in technology. Also, people with apps, people always have, come in and they think they have a great idea for an app. Those things usually don't pan out because they're realizing all the work it takes to develop a prototype and, these things. But that's something men also, I think, also very popular, I think, are food-based businesses. Women want to work. And these open up a whole different set of problems of, women who they make the best homemade cakes in the world, and they feel that what I have to rent a space, I can make cakes and sell them out of my own home. Is that a good idea? Can I do that? It is possible. There are ways that they can do it, but in terms of just getting the right plan in place, we can make that work. We've had a number of successes of people that actually did start their home-based businesses, selling food out of their home. A lot of, again, more in food-based, people want to open up restaurants. People have ideas for coffee shops, restaurants, which again, these are very, very hard businesses to start anything in the food industry. It's usually, I would say more times than not, are not successful, but people always think that they have, their idea is going to be better than the rest. And we've had some people with success that actually started and it succeeded, but again, it takes a lot of hard work and there's no shortcuts. It's very rare that someone just goes in and everything falls in place. You have to really actually do the research and do all the work to put it in place for something to really be able to succeed.
Okay, and final question for tonight. So there's this audience listening right now, and there might be quite a few of them that that have these particular business ideas that they're thinking of, testing or getting off the ground. They come to you, Yehuda, what do you think? Should I do it? Should I not do it? What's your wisdom to them?
Well, I think I thought, basically it's that. Each idea is something on its own. We have to we have to look at the person, see if that person is capable of whatever. We take the idea, look at the person, and we look at the business. Is this person capable of running a business? Can he take all the necessary steps and move it forward? And is the business something that's viable? Is there a demand for the product? Is there too much competition out there? Is it unique in a certain way? We have to do it by a case-by-case basis. It's not something, there's no general one-word answer for it saying it's a good idea, not a good idea. Everything involves doing the proper research before we move ahead and making sure that the idea is a good idea. Listen, it could work that someone could just go by the fly and he has mazel and it works out. And a lot of times the most successful people do that. They just have an idea and it takes off. But that would not be the prudent thing to do. The real way to do it properly is to do the research and take all the necessary steps and implement them properly in order to be able to be successful.
So if I could recap what you said for all of you listening out there, CHYE, our mission is we want to inspire entrepreneurship, and we want people to there's many different pathways to parnasa out there in the world, and one of the most lucrative, if successful, is starting a business. And if you have an idea, don't let it just sit there. Take the idea and test it out. If you don't try, you never know
exactly
what's going to be. But at least take the idea and put it against the wall. Start. This is where we're here for. You could come here and meet with Yehuda, and we could take your idea and start digging into it and seeing if it's feasible. If you never go down that road, then you'll never know. But we would like you to. So this is why we're here, and this is why Yehuda's here. Exactly. He's here 3 hours a day, 4 days a week, and he's available and accessible to help you. Get the ball rolling.
Right. As you said, that's exactly right. It's fine if someone has an idea. So we're here to be able to take the information that you give us, and we can help you figure out if this can become a reality or not. Again, you don't have to trust us. It's something that you can go, but like as I said, we have the tools, to give you and the resources to be able to help you move it forward. If there are certain steps that you need to take to be able to move the idea forward, and you don't know the right people to access, we have connections to those people that we can, you can talk to a marketing professional, you can talk to a business strategist, someone who can help you with pricing.
We have
and
amazing people in this community that have expertise in all areas of business, and they're happy to sit with you and share with you and see you to Hatzlacha.
Right. And basically the idea is to make an informed decision, not a rash decision, but once you have everything in place, you know what needs to be done, and then you have to come to the determination of, can you do it? If you do the research and see that there is a market for it, and you can put all the things together, and you have the cash reserves to do it, you have access to financing and get money, then it's something that you can put forward. And
Kulam b'chachma asisa. Do a little homework, and if it makes sense, b'chachma, then asisa, then do it.
Right.
Let's make it happen. Wishing all of you a wonderful week filled with tremendous hatzlacha. Thank you very much, Yehuda, for sharing from your wisdom. Yehuda is here all the time to be there for you. Michayel El Chayil, have a wonderful week. Thank you for listening to the CHYE in partnership with COL Live K-Factor podcast with your host, Rabbi Yehoshua Wordy. We look forward to bringing you more amazing entrepreneurs to share their stories. See you next week.